welcome to another episode of Mindset, Money, Success. And in today's episode, I am going to cover some of my life experience with the justice system in Spain. And the article is The Systemic Failures in the Justice System in Spain. And I only wrote this article a few days ago. The intention is to show how, when you are in a situation with a previous partner, that you can have a situation of post-separation abuse that plays out in the legal system, in the justice system. So a couple of days ago, my thoughts were based around the legal intimidation and the litigation abuses post-separation, and how it's an unlevel playing field. And basically, it's one of power imbalance. And so I got to thinking, are these power imbalances an indication of something more sinister going on? It seems to me that the justice system, the lawyers, the attorneys, social services, police don't really understand and are not able to provide the right advice moving forward on any level. So this is how I'm going to explain it by going through my experience today. A high conflict personality will rather litigate divorce and separation than come to the table to discuss things in a civilised adult manner. And they will hide behind the legal processes and have a lawyer do all the work. It's abuse by proxy. The high conflict personality will have deep pockets, and they don't mind spending on legal fees as they want to win at all costs. They lack empathy, have zero morals, and refuse to accept any responsibility for the abuse and psychological damage that they are causing. And if you do happen to engage them in mediation, if the mediator is not knowledgeable about coercive control or narcissistic abuse, then they will manipulate that mediator and will move the goalposts on the offers. Before you can even sign an agreement, they will have changed their mind again and gone one step backwards. It is so frustrating for everyone. Now, here's a quote. It's not just another high conflict divorce or separation. There are people who can ruin your life. They will destroy your reputation, your self-esteem, or your career. High conflict personalities will think nothing of leaving you emotionally and financially devastated. So this is an article, it's a quote from an article that I wrote in May of 2023, and it's called Not Another High Conflict Divorce or Separation. Now, I'll leave a link to that article in the show notes and in the description below this video. So let's have a look at barriers to legal representation. In many cases, the victim has little or no income and no financial resources to fall back on. That means applying for legal aid or finding a lawyer to do pro bono work, or even doing it yourself, pro se, like Tina Swithin of One Mum's Battle. And again, I'll leave a link to that in the show notes and in the description. When I was looking for legal advice and representation, most of the solicitors I managed to get a free consultation with did not know how to advise me. Spanish and UK legal advisors seemed unable to separate the abuse situation from the property issues. The ex-person did not just want his house back. It was more ego-driven than that, and I believe I caused an ego injury, or what I have heard called a narcissistic injury. Now, obtaining free public appointed representation in Spain. 1. I was provided a free lawyer in 2 criminal hearings in a women's gender violence court, 2020 and 2021, for a case brought against the former partner. This free lawyer turned up to the court on the date of the hearing, 30 minutes before the appointment, each time. He didn't ask any further questions, didn't ask for any evidence, and there was not even a psychologist's report. He had me sign all the legal paperwork and took the case forward based on the statement written by the Guardia with no legal representative at the time of providing my statement, which is obviously advisable, and I had requested but didn't manage to obtain. So when the case was dismissed, I was informed via text message in March 2021. I sought the advice of the original solicitor, who said I should appeal the dismissal of the case. I asked the free lawyer about an appeal, and the lawyer texts back, "My job is done. You need to find another lawyer." True or not, it didn't help me. 2. Another free lawyer for my legal representation in the precarious eviction verbal hearing in a civil court in 2022, brought against me by my former partner, who had initially promised to share the property 50-50. The lawyer was appointed via ICA, the Illustrial College of Abogados, in Cartagena. Now, after I had to complete all the applications, it didn't go well from the very first meeting in March. Definitely not trauma-informed. Her statements were triggering, to say the least. Here's what I remember. "Go back to the UK. Go back to your family. He just wants his house back. The judge will order your eviction." Those statements caused further trauma in the situation that I'd been through. Now, a criminal case with 7 allegations, so 3. The third appointment of a free lawyer in October 2022. This time for my defence in a criminal case with 7 allegations brought again by the former partner. His expensive Barcelona lawyer had requested maximum penalties that added cumulatively to 17 years of prison. The lawyer sent me a text message so I could have his name. And again, he doesn't speak English, so there was immediate communication difficulty. Next, I looked up the qualifications of this legal advisor, and I discovered that he had a doctorate in civil law. I wrote a text to ask him how many criminal cases with a requested prison of 17 years he has defended. He didn't answer. So I informed the prosecution that I would not get a fair hearing, and I sack that free lawyer. Luckily, I was informed that the first hearing, due in November of 2022, was suspended, and I could continue searching for legal representation using cash from the sale of my UK property to fund the fees. After contacting 10 or more local firms, I had to widen the search, and I found 2 companies that were willing to give me a consultation. One of the companies asks for a fee just to do a Zoom meeting, and I reject that one. And the other can do a free consultation, and I accept the fee proposal of a criminal lawyer in Madrid. 4. After sacking the first lawyer in the civil verbal hearing, effective from October 2023, another publicly appointed lawyer was put in place in November 2023. And the reason why I sacked the first lawyer was because I was aware there had been discrimination in the first trial. Discrimination on the grounds of language and socio-economic status. Because I had saw a communication that had been sent into that court the month before the first hearing, and it explained why my legal defence was not going to interrogate the plaintiff and not going to ask questions in the verbal hearing. So effectively, I was silenced because neither party understood or could speak Spanish, which is, again, that's discrimination on language, and that I lacked any form of income at that point, and I had recognised free legal representation. So I was appointed this free lawyer in November, but it seemed like it was a formality. She sent me an email in December 2023 to inform me that the date of the launch, another word for eviction, will take place in March 2024. 5. I had been advised to file a coercion complaint in June of 2023. The reason behind that complaint was because the utilities at the property had been terminated by the partner who had left me here in 2020. So the criminal lawyer who was representing me in the allegations, the criminal allegations, advised me to file this complaint of coercion. And I was sent a separate invoice that he would represent me in the women's court. I don't know why I paid for this, as I didn't need to. I should have had another free public appointed lawyer. So I'd made this complaint and it got heard in September 2023. So it took months because obviously the holidays in between in the summer. So from June, it took until September till that case was heard. And to this date, nothing has been solved about that coercion complaint. And so because of my frustration of what happened in the coercion complaint, I made another complaint to the Guardia in November of 2023 after the evidence that had been called for in the women's court was not submitted by the attorney that I had paid to file the evidence. So that was a bit of more frustration, more anger, and definitely more trauma. So the complaint that I had filed in November was due to the false allegations that had been made by the former partner. Only the Guardia somehow misinterpreted some of what I told them. The translator, again, it was on the telephone and wasn't present in the room, so it was very difficult. So I believe that the misinterpretation happens a lot, as it happened in the first complaint that I filed in 2020. So I had to go back and file additional written statement to ensure that the facts were presented correctly. Then I had to wait. 5 months later, I am given a date to appear in a women's court again to provide my testimony. This was where I was appointed yet another free lawyer. He appeared 5 minutes before the hearing started. He knew nothing about me. He didn't know anything about the past cases that had been in the courts or the previous advice that I had been given. And the lawyer tally so far: men, 2 in the Women's Court of Gender Violence, 1 in the criminal defamation case, who was sacked before the first hearing. Women, 2 appointed to the precarious eviction civil case, 1 which I sacked. 5 different free public appointed legal representatives in 4 court cases. Plus, I paid for 2 mediation attempts, 1 with a UK solicitor and another with a mediation company. I paid for 3 different Spanish solicitors for advice and assistance. I paid for 1 criminal law firm in Madrid to represent me in 2 cases, one where I paid for an attorney to submit evidence on my behalf. And it's not over yet. So who knew? Okay, who made the appointments? Was it the court prosecutor or the ICA, the Illustrious College of Abogados in Cartagena? There's no continuation of service. For each new case, each litigation means another solicitor and another legal representative. This makes it extremely difficult for the individual if there is a continuation of abuse through the justice system. How can the victim obtain the correct advice if the legal representation is not aware of the history of litigations? Also, in the case of a lawyer in the eviction case, even when I informed her of the previous gender violence hearings in the Women's Court, she dismissed it as irrelevant, as that was the criminal court. There is no way to join up the processes if each case is looked at on an individual basis. The only person who will have consistency in litigation is the person who can afford to pay for legal representation. Now, that lawyer will know all the facts. Only the lawyer that the former partner had appointed in the precarious eviction was not the same lawyer as the one that stood power of attorney in the first women's court hearing. The former partner had changed his legal advisor in 2021 and had appointed what he called a specialist lawyer who knows about these types of evictions. And the only reason I know that is because he copied me in to his email to the mediator that I had actually instructed and that I had paid for. So he's telling me this lawyer knows about these evictions. Really? A lawyer who has been manipulated with false statements about how I was asked to leave, and a lawyer who did not know that I had been given a financial proposal and that I had signed an agreement from 2021. I doubt that he was told the full facts of what happened. So when I published my book in 2022, I had been through a whole process of grief, and I didn't know if I was going to be evicted or not in 2022. I thought it would be over and by September of 2022. It's now 2025 and it's not over yet. Now, I'll leave a link to my updated version of the book that I actually wrote under a pen name to protect the people involved, the lawyers, the other women who were involved, and of course, the ex-partner who filed the allegation of defamation against me for the published book. That case was dismissed in October of 2024. Now, the only thing that kept me going through all of this trauma, through all of this grief that I've experienced and the anxiety that I've suffered, the stress of everything that happened, is the fact that I've been learning new skills. I've basically invested in myself. I have been creating digital assets online, and I have a YouTube channel called Post Separation Abuse 2020. And on that channel, I have a podcast called Storytime. And in that podcast, there is an episode there called The Obstacles Survivors of Post-Separation Abuse Face When Navigating the Legal System. Now, it was generated through AI, and you could go and listen to that podcast. It's part of my recommended reading, which is from Katie Gillis. Now, the recommended reading, the 2 books, is Invisible Bruises, How a Better Understanding of the Patterns of Domestic Violence Can Help Survivors Navigate the Legal System. And I'll leave a link to that book. It's available on Amazon. And the second book is It's Not High Conflict, It's Post-Separation Abuse, When Abusers Weaponize the Courts as a Form of Retaliation. And I'll leave that link in the description and in the show notes. So here are some of the systemic obstacles survivors face of post-separation abuse when navigating the legal system. The legal system unintentionally perpetuates a cycle of domestic violence. The courtroom can become another tool for abusers to continue their abuse. Judges often do not understand post-separation abuse and express belief when survivors describe it. They may be frustrated by accusations of domestic violence and may not believe that someone can be cruel for no reason. The burden of proof falls on the survivor, who must provide evidence beyond all reasonable doubt. Now, survivors may be unable to remember specific details about the abuse due to trauma, cognitive decline, and makes it challenging to meet the standard of proof. The process of obtaining legal protection is often lengthy and complex, and survivors may need to make multiple court appearances, file extensive paperwork, take time off work, all of which is overwhelming and re-traumatizing. Law enforcement may be dismissive of non-physical forms of abuse. Often, physical violence must occur before a protection order is granted. The word narcissist is overused in courtrooms, leading judges to dismiss claims of abuse. Attorneys advise their clients not to use this term, as it can make the survivor appear vindictive. The sources also suggest that survivors may struggle to find attorneys who understand post-separation abuse and take it seriously. They may attract attorneys who make promises they cannot keep or who dismiss the severity of the abuse. Now, it's crucial that survivors choose attorneys who are knowledgeable about this type of abuse and who can advocate for their needs. Things are changing slowly, and now survivors can search Google for legal help with narcissistic abuse. And there will be legal firms returned in the search that show up on the first page of the search engine. And if you refine your search with the country you live in, and you can see what results show up. Now, you might need to go to pages 2, 3, or 4 to see if there are results in your country. Now, if you enjoyed reading this article, you can support my journey of recovery. And I have a Buy Me a Coffee link, which is also in the show notes and in the description below the video. So thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you next week. So bye for now.